marriage.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for March 18, 2025, and it's 7:13 p.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we all please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members, please? Thank you. May be seated. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth.
Present.
Councilmember Uppa.
Present.
Councilmember Wallace.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, all council members and mayor are in attendance.
Thank you. Can we have closed session announcements, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No reportable action from the closed session tonight. However, the city would like to report out a previous closed session action item. The city entered into settlement negotiations in Madera County Superior Court case number 22 CV-00826, Jose Ramirez v. City of Livingston. And as part of that settlement negotiations, a settlement was reached by a majority vote of the council, and the vote was a 4-to-1 vote in favor of settlement. The settlement terms are as follows. Payment of $350,000 to plaintiffs in plaintiffs' attorney's fees, a 3-year employment contract with Mr. Ramirez with a base salary of $190,000 and a 9-month severance, dismissal of all the pending litigation in that case, meaning case number 22 CV-00826. A copy of the settlement agreement and employment agreement are available upon request at the city clerk's office, and there's no further reportable action at this time.
All right, thank you. Council, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I request that we move item 13 to the spot right before item 11, so have it right after consent and right before the public hearing items.
13 to prior to 11.
Prior to 11, yeah, right after consent agenda.
Okay, council, are there any objections?
None.
Okay. Council, anything else? Seeing none. Next, we have oath of office. Item number 1, Deputy City Clerk will administer the oath of office to appointed City Manager Jose Antonio Ramirez. And I guess we can go ahead.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Jose Antonio Ramirez, do solemnly swear that I will affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I will be taking upon the intent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank everybody that is here this evening and those that are watching us. I have a quick little statement that I want to make this evening. First of all, a reinstatement of my job fills me with great enthusiasm and joy. I'm deeply grateful and humbled by the opportunity. I would first like to thank God, my wife, my kids, my mother, and my brothers, Livingston community leaders, Livingston employees, the Livingston business community, and all the members of the City Council. Also, a special thank you to former District Attorney Kimberly Lewis and Bimley West and Maria Boren and Tony Tartaglio. I have endured almost 4 years of hardship, but with my head held up high. There's a lot of things that I would like to accomplish personally and professionally for the City of Livingston. With the help of stakeholders, employees, the City Council, I envision a better and more prosperous Livingston. I love and respect the city management profession because it's the front lines of democracy, the bedrock of democracy, yes, our local government. I have always taken my profession seriously. It was more than 25 years ago that I adopted the ICMA Code of Ethics. Ethics are the core of building and maintaining public trust. These principles guide my moral compass and therefore my career of public service. I plan to continue striving to keep local government transparent and therefore earning and keeping the public's trust. Public trust is tied at the hip with public policies, and in turn, it nurtures cohesion. La reincorporación a mi trabajo me llena de gran entusiasmo y alegría. Estoy profundamente agradecido y conmovido por esta oportunidad. En primer lugar, quiero agradecer a Dios, a mi esposa, a mis hijos, a mi madre, a mis hermanos, a los líderes de la comunidad Livingston y a los empleados de Livingston, la comunidad empresarial y, por supuesto, a todos los miembros de la alcaldía. También quiero agradecer especialmente a la ex fiscal del distrito, Kimberly Lewis, Bimley West, María Boren y Tony Tartaligo. He soportado casi 4 años de dificultades, pero con la frente en alto. Hay muchas cosas que me gustaría lograr, tanto profesional como personalmente, para la ciudad de Livingston. Con la ayuda de Dios y las partes interesadas como los empleados, el ayuntamiento, visualizo un Livingston mejor y próspero. Amo y respeto la profesión de administración municipal porque es la vanguardia de la democracia, la base de la democracia, sí, nuestro gobierno local. Siempre he tomado mi profesión muy en serio. Hace 25 años que adopté el código de ética de mi profesión. La ética es fundamental para construir y mantener la confianza pública. Estos principios guían mi moral y, por lo tanto, mi carrera en el servicio público. Planeo seguir esforzosamente para mantener la transparencia del gobierno local y, por lo tanto, ganarme y conservar la confianza del público. La confianza pública está estrechamente ligada a las políticas públicas y fomentan la cohesión. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Do we take some photos real quick, or
Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Is that okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor.
There's some cookies on the back. I think we forgot the waters, but there's cookies. We'll get just. There's coffee. Yes, there's coffee. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back at 7:32. Next, we have citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the City Council this evening. Is there any citizen comments on the phone? Seeing none, bringing it back to the chamber. Is there any citizen comments in the chamber for any items not on the agenda? Seeing none, go ahead. And please state your name for the record.
Julio Valadez. So I'm here to ask you guys again, Mr. Jose Moran, Jason, Jabjeet, and Gurpal, and Mr. Wallace, the nonprofit that helped during last year's 4th of July has not been reimbursed or given their percentage still. It's been meeting after meeting after meeting that it was supposed to have been resolved, and it's not been done. And, you know, we're in what, March, April, May, June, July, 4 more months, and it's been a year. And I know that it's been going back and forth with the attorney, and you've already paid the attorney more than you owe them. So I don't understand why you guys have not taken care of that. Again, you know, I keep coming back to you, Jose, that you're for the community and this and that, but these guys played for they did a service to the community, and they're not being taken care of. I see you putting national news on your social media, but you're not taking care of local stuff. So I would appreciate that you guys take care of that soon for them, as they did something in good faith, and they turned in all the money that they had collected. They could have just kept the percentage and their what they spent, what it cost them to do, and then just turned in the rest of the city. But in good faith, because I've worked with the city before, they turned it all in. So can you guys answer what's going on with that? I know that you guys went in and talked about it in closed session, but any public money that's going out or in is public information.
Do you have any more questions so that we can respond to your question?
Regarding that, no.
So go ahead and ask your other questions.
Well, it's not a question. It's just an observation that normally the mayor swears in any elected or assigned officials. I just noticed that you did not swear in Mr. Ramirez. It's just an observation.
Thank you. Just real quick, I thought that was already taken care of. The last I spoke with Ricky Ricardo. He hasn't gone back to me. Apparently, there was direction given to staff. So, since nobody mentioned anything, I assumed that, or I don't know if the council, anybody else in the council was aware of it, but we're assuming that was taken care of. So apparently not. I mean, you have my number. Ricky Ricardo has my number. You can always reach out and ask me and let me know so that I could have an opportunity to check with staff. Normally, that's how it works. And this is not, I mean, we have had previous conversations and negotiations, or, you know, this is not the first time, and we've been working together for many years. So I'm surprised that you hadn't had an opportunity to text me or Ricky Ricardo or staff, but from the council, there was already direction given. So just to let you know, let's go ahead and communicate again. I'll talk to staff and see what happened, and then I can get back to you.
So I did send you a text message right after that one meeting, and you never responded. So I just said, okay, so I guess he's not going to respond anymore. So if you want to look at your text messages, I did.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and do that because, you know, that's, and then again, I'm human, and, you know, I'm pretty good at trying to reply pretty quick, you know, probably within a few hours, at the most 24 hours, because I do have a job, you know, but I'll look into that. But then again, let's go ahead and communicate again. and let me find out what's going on, what happened, and let's go from there.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Sorry, just one more thing. I did want the opportunity to come back and give a recap of how it went and the money that came in and went out and how much was actually spent on last year's 4th of July. I want to get that opportunity. I requested that of you and Maria and never got back to me on that either.
All right. Is there any other citizen comments in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 7:37. Next, we have announcements and reports. Supervisor Jim Pacheco, announcements and reports.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Not a whole lot to report. I did attend the Merced County Farm Bureau dinner at the beginning of March. They had a good program, good meal, and I was able to connect with some of our Livingston farmers, so it was a good night. The only other thing, we had a big recent storms over the weekend. Happy to report there wasn't a whole lot of significant damage, which is good. I want to thank our Public Works Department and Offices of Emergency Services. And I'm hopefully Livingston made it through okay. So that's really all I have to report, unless anybody has anything for me. If not,
Council, any questions? Well, Mr. Pacheco, I just want to thank you for meeting with me earlier today. I really, enjoyed the conversation, and I really appreciate it, especially you coming all the way out to Livingston and being here. So that says a lot, and I would encourage the rest of the council to connect with Mr. Pacheco as well, and just, also share some of the interesting things about Livingston and what are some of the needs that you might have seen and that, want to look forward towards working with the county via Mr. Pacheco. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. And yes, I encourage everybody to get a hold of me, and I look forward to working with the city and the City Council.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Is there any city staff announcements or reports? Seeing none. City manager announcements or reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, again, I want to thank staff and the council and everybody for the opportunity. There is a few things that I would like to highlight today. One is I did receive a letter from Self-Help Enterprises, so I'll be providing the council with a copy of the letter. Basically, what they're looking for is a deferral of impact fees, not actually asking for a waiver, but a deferral. So I did put a call in to Mr. Caldershaw just to get a little bit more background and more information. I didn't, he's out, but as soon as he gets back, but I'll forward the letter. The other thing is I look forward to working with Mr. Pacheco. We have, Supervisor Pacheco, we have that outstanding tax sharing agreement that we'd love to get that done. Also, this evening, our staff is going to be talking a little bit about the housing element and the general plan update. That's a living, breathing document. It's ongoing, and we really would like to have more public participation because those are very important and they're all tied together. Lastly, I also want to thank Happy for holding the fort there for a little while, and looking forward to presenting the budget early June so that we can have it before the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have City Council members' announcements and reports. Mr. Wallace?
Nothing to report this time. I was missed out on the Planning Commission meeting. My doctor decided I was behind on 3 shots and gave them to me all on the same day, and that did me in. So I missed the one meeting I should have attended, and I apologize for that.
Thank you. Mr. Jason Roth?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I attended the March 11th Planning Commission meeting, which was last Tuesday. I have a meeting scheduled with MCAG for the One Voice trip to Washington on March 27th that I will be attending. And that would be it. Welcome back to our city manager. Let's get our city back to normal, and thank you very much.
Next, we have Councilmember Jebjito Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Met with folks from MCAG today. Thank you to Mary Michael and then Ben Goldine, who's the advocacy director for MCAG, to get up to speed on the One Voice trip. One thing that they did mention that I wanted to make sure all of us were aware of, because we did not have a representative attend the previous meetings where this was mentioned, is that the congressional earmark process has started. Earmark for Senator Schiff, Senator Padilla, and then they said Congressman Gray's earmark application would be coming out sometime in the next couple of days. Those are going to be due early April, some of them April 1st, some of them March 31st. And so I wanted to make sure that council and staff were aware that those are open. And if there's any support needed to prepare applications, or even scheduling meetings in the next couple of weeks to get that process going, I'm definitely happy to support. Wanted to congratulate Mr. Ramirez again. It's nice to have some stability in that position. I think everybody's excited about the path going forward. And then thank you to Happy for stepping up and holding on the fort. There was never a hesitation. It was, we need somebody to step up, and I'm happy to be the one doing it. And I know that means a lot to us, to staff, and to the community. And that's really reflective of the entire staff that I've seen so far. Folks have stepped up time and time again. And we're actually going to make an adjustment in consent tonight for another staff member who stepped up tremendously. And so thank you to all of you who continue to do what needs to be done to move the city forward. It means a lot.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, welcome back, Jose. Good to see you. Look forward to doing a lot of exciting things for the city with you, like we did in the past. I think it's going to be great. I think a lot of developers, everybody's happy, and citizens at large are very happy, so it's good to have you back. And second, just to add to what Japjit said, to Happy and staff, we went through that transition period between the previous city manager leaving and Jose coming in. We want to thank you guys for stepping in, making sure to hold everything there so the city was able to continue to work. So that says a lot about the commitment, the dedication of our staff. So thank you one and all. I appreciate that truly. And then also to, as everybody may or may not know, but last Sunday in March, as we've done for the last 20 some odd years, the Nugget Keaton is coming in. So it'll be this on the 30th on a Sunday. It'll start from the Gurdwara on Peach, go to B, then back to Peach. I hope everybody will come out and look at, enjoy it, and participate in the festivities, have some free food, and just look at things that you normally don't see. And another one is, everybody knows, I'm on the Mosquito Abatement Committee. We had our meeting today. One thing everybody may or may not know, we're definitely going to find out by this weekend, the weather's starting to get warm again. It's going to hit the 80s, and pretty soon we're going to be wishing it was back in the 80s, but this is the valley, and we're all used to it. One thing will happen is, one thing that happens in the summer here is we start getting mosquitoes. So folks, mosquito season's about to start. Late rains means early mosquitoes, and so if you have an issue in the park somewhere or even in the residential area with mosquito issues, please contact the city, or you can contact the Mosquito Abatement Committee, Mosquito Abatement District directly, and they will take care of you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, I just have a few items. I don't want to take too long. I did attend the Recreation Commission meeting. It's always refreshing to see something different, a different perspective, and all the different activities that they're planning in it. And really, I always see recreation being kind of one of the backbone of a lot of our youth activities in the city, and always been very supportive. And I just want to say thank you to the entire, or everybody that has been in the Recreation Commission, because it takes a lot. They not only attend their planning commission meetings, their Recreation Commission meetings, but they actually do volunteer, and they're always the ones at the forefront of all of the activities that they approve and work on. So that is quite different from others. Thank you for that. I also attended the last Planning Commission meeting. Earlier today, I met with Supervisor Pacheco. Actually, one of the conversations that I had with Mr. Pacheco was to kind of just briefing him a little bit about one of the items that the city has been working on for quite a while in regards to the tax sharing agreement. And, so that is part of those, one of the items that I think it's important for the city to look into. So already started doing that. And Mr. Upal, thank you for bringing that up in regards to the earmarks letters, requests for the senator and congressman. And actually, you just reminded me to report on the earmark letters, that requests that were sent out to Assemblymember Esmeralda Soria and Senator Ana Caballero. So, we got to try and find different ways to get financial support for our city for different projects. So hopefully something good comes out of that, and really looking forward to eventually working on those earmark letters for the senator and the congressman. I believe that's it for me at this time. Next, we have a conflict of interest declaration. Members of the City Council will declare an actual or apparent conflict of interest before discussions or decisions about any matters in which they or anyone with whom they have a close personal relationship should directly or indirectly benefit, or where such a benefit could be perceived. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And in the consent agenda, I actually had a question that I sent earlier to staff in regards to item number 4 on page 80 of the agenda. I just needed a clarification in regards to an exclusion in regards to prevailing wages. And I know that, Mr. Ramirez, you did respond that you would be checking in with the contractor to make sure that, because in their agreement, they're asking for prevailing wages to be excused, but in our documents, we have to work with prevailing wages. Was there an update on that?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you very much for the inquiry, Mr. Mayor. So any public project is $1 above is considered a public works project, and so the mayor caught the exclusion piece. So I went ahead and make sure that the contractor was aware that they have to pay prevailing wages for this specific project, and they actually responded, and they understand that prevailing wages must be fortified.
Mr. Mayor, quick question to the attorney. Roy, is there any issue with us approving this as stated, even though that agreement's already taken place on the back end? This is listed in our report. Does that conflict at all, or are we good to go?
I would recommend that we bring the contract back, because the current contract as provided doesn't have that revised language.
Can we pull this item then from tonight's meeting and bring it back during our next meeting?
At this time, the council, we could still go out for public comment on the consent agenda, but council can pull any consent item, and at that point make a motion to table that item and bring it back to the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
If I may, or can we approve the item based on considering that language is fixed, but because it's currently published that way, we have to wait? Or we just want to do it the right way, but then again, if there's a way that we don't have to postpone it or pull it,
what we could do is the council could direct staff to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with that edit made and have it reviewed by the city attorney's office. That's another option too. So the two options would be either pull the item and continue it for the next meeting, or direct staff, meaning direct the city manager to edit the existing agreement, execute the agreement, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with those edits as approved by the city attorney's office.
Council?
I'd like to motion to approve the consent agenda and for item 4 to direct the city manager to execute the agreement with the specific edit made and have the attorney circle back on it.
I will second that.
So before we do that, we'll go out for public comment. So allow me to go out for public comment if there's no other questions or comments from the council. So at 7:53, I will go out for public comment. Is there any public comment on the phone in regards to item number 4? Hearing none, is there any comments in the chamber on item number 4? Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Moran, and council, but I'm glad you did catch that, Mayor Moran, that you guys are actually looking at this stuff, and you too, Jeff Jeet. Because the $415,000, it seems a lot for the roof on that child development center, and it seems like it should have been paying that prevailing wage. But do you know what prevailing wage is, you or anyone up there? Is it $85 an hour?
Well, it depends on the discipline, and there's so many. But the important thing that the public needs to understand for this particular is that back in 2020, we actually went out and we are actually piggybacking with a corporation or an organization called Omnia, who actually worked with Gardland, and so they go out and they bid the project, and so we look for the best, lowest responsible bidder in this particular case. So without having I don't know the firm itself, but at this point your point is well taken. But in this world of public works projects, this actually is within that range.
Is there any additional citizen comments in the chamber in regards to this item? Seeing none, closing the public comment at 7:54, bringing it back to the dais. So thank you, I do appreciate your comment. It was only 383 pages of reading, but yeah, it was an average agenda document. So anyways, so yes, so I
call for the question.
Yes, roll call, please. So there's a first by Councilmember Opal, second by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Roll call.
Councilmember Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Opal?
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra?
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
All right, so we have the rest of the consent agenda, items 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Is there any additional questions on any of the items, or is there any motions to approve the consent agenda as stated?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent.
So we have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Give me a minute. The first motion was for item
4.
4. Councilmember Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Upal?
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra?
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. So next we have item number 13, which we're moving prior to public hearing. Item number 13 is consideration of a resolution reappointing Jessica Betchart to the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission. Staff recommendation, approved resolution. I'm not sure if Jackie? Please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just a little background, Jessica has been with the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission since February of 2021, and her term was actually up January 30th of 2025. Jessica has been an important part of our commission, helping us develop successful events such as the Splash of Color Run and our Coach Recognition Banquet. There's been ongoing vacancies for the alternate on the commission, so vacancies have been advertised for over a year on the city website, City Hall bulletin board, and social media. To date, we've not had any other applicants. Jessica turned in her application in early February for reappointment, and her application is attached to the report.
Thank you, Jackie. Council, is there any questions at this time?
Just a statement, I can't think of anybody better. Thank you, as always, Jessica.
Thank you. Anyone else before I go for public comment? Seeing none, I will go out for public comment. Is there any public comment on the phone? Hearing none, bringing it back to the chamber. Is there any public comment in the chamber in regards to this item? Sure, go ahead.
Hi, most of you guys all know me. Hi, I'm Jessica Betchart. I have, I've honestly been a community member for the last 12 and a half years. My husband is a third generation Livingston, and my sons are fourth generation. So I have currently ones, they have gone through elementary all the way up. And we have been instrumental in every aspect. We have played every sport. We have volunteered for anything that had to do with the kids and growing up and all of their friends and all of their schoolwork. My husband and I have always been there every step of the way. I also currently have started a couple years ago the LMS PTO, which I'm hoping to continue to grow and pass down to the next leaders of the middle school. And I just want to continue and see our recplex be built and come to fruition and all this hard work we've done. So I don't want to give up now. I still have one in 7th grade, so I've got 6 more years of school and them wanting me around. So I just wanted to thank you guys for taking this opportunity to consider, and I hope I get to continue.
Thank you for that. Is there any additional citizens' comments in the chamber in regards to this item? Seeing none, closing the public comment at 7:59, bringing it back to the dais. You know, I do want to thank you for I really don't know how many years I've seen you there, but I've seen you there for a long time. And like I said, you're not, and many of the recreation commissioners that have come through the commission have been probably one of the most highly volunteer members in the community. And, you know, I see you and your husband, your kids everywhere all the time. So that is great, and a great example to others to be able to volunteer. And I will be more than happy to make sure that I support the recommendation to have you continue on the commission as well. Thank you. Council, so was there a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Jessica Betchart for the Parks and Recreation and Arts Commission.
Thank you. I will go ahead and second that. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Opal?
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semra?
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, and congratulations.
It looks like we're going to get you out right at 8 o'clock. So, and thank you for all your work.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have public hearing, item number 11, consideration of a resolution to approve general plan amendment number 2023-01, amending the general plan use diagram of the city of Livingston from PF, public facility, to HC, highway commercial, to accommodate phase 2 of the Moonglow development project on property generally located on the south side of Campbell Avenue and east of Hammett Avenue at 2300 Campbell Avenue, and introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Livingston designation for the subject site from public quasi-public facilities, PF, to highway service commercial, C3, site was previously identified as APN number 023-070-012 and currently part of APN 023-070-015 and 023-070-016.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have the applicants here, Shinda and Goldie. Welcome. And Mr. Galvez will present. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the audience. Miguel Galvez, contract planner with the City of Livingston. This is a development application that we're happy to bring back to the city. As you know, the bungalow project that was approved by the City Council back in 2022. At that time, they approved the site plan design review. They also approved the use permit. The use permit would allow a convenience store and drive-through restaurants and a service station. At that time, a request to amend the general plan and rezone the property was not included, so we're kind of doing cleanup work. So the request again is to redesignate the general plan amendment to change the general plan designation from public facility to highway commercial, both for the general plan and the zoning ordinance. Here's a real quick picture of the locations at the southeast corner of Hammett and Campbell Boulevard there. It includes those properties in yellow. Here's an aerial. The property remains undeveloped. I know the applicant has submitted building permits. I understand a grading permit is also in the process. The subject property is currently used as a storm drain basin, and the intent is to relocate that basin to the southeast part of the site. Here's some quick pictures of the site. As I mentioned, the general plan shows that property as designated as PF. Under the PF designation, basically it's limited to public facilities or quasi-public facilities such as the storm drain. Under that designation, any type of commercial development is not allowed, and so the request is to amend that to allow the project to move forward. So again, it'll go from PF to HC, highway commercial. The same thing applies with the zoning district. The zoning district is PF, which is quasi-public facility, and that would be changed to, amended to C3, highway service commercial. You can see that change there. Just a little quick recap. This project involved a truck stop. It involved a convenience store with 2 quick service restaurants. It involved 2 quick service restaurants on the western part. The project was going to be developed in 2 phases. The first phase is identified in the red outline there. The convenience store with the 2 quick service restaurants attached to the convenience store is there on the left side of the red portion. You got the truck stop, which initially was going to have a tire store, is going to have a truck wash, an RV dump station. The yellow part will be the new location of the storm drain basin. That would be as part of phase 1. All the street improvements would be developed there. Phase 2 is the area in blue, which is the western part of the property. That included 2 quick service restaurants, drive-throughs, and parking. So altogether, the council approved the site plan design review and use permit for the whole site. Permitted land uses, as I mentioned, under the C3 zone, a restaurant with a drive-through requires a use permit, which was granted. A service gasoline station was applied for. That was approved as well. As I mentioned, there was a convenience store, tire center. That was permitted. With any new development, site plan design review is required, and all that was approved, including the 2 quick service restaurants with the drive-throughs on phase 2. Issues I mentioned earlier, you're not allowed to develop commercial use in the PF zone, so that is required to be developed, be amended. The stormwater basin presently serves the Moonglow site and adjacent streets. That will have to be relocated as part of phase 2. It will address all the on-site storm drainage as well as the the adjacent streets, all that will be channeled into that storm drain basin. With the initial project, there was a traffic analysis that was prepared. It required traffic improvements such as frontage improvements, intersection design at Hammond and Campbell, improvements there, and the applicant has to pay their fair share, and it had 5 mitigation measures regarding traffic. Those will remain in place. Just some minor stuff, but for the record, the street classification on Campbell Boulevard is it's 110 foot, 5-lane arterial. It's also a truck route, but for the city, we designated that as a level C for street congestion. But that has been somewhat modified as we deal with vehicle miles traveled. It's kind of technical, but for the record, I just want to say that because we're going to vehicle miles traveled as the standard, it minimizes our impacts on greenhouse gases. Environmental review. The environmental review, which was an initial study, mitigated negative declaration that was out for review back in 2020 through January 2021. It included mitigation measures that I mentioned, a mitigation monitoring program. The initial study, mitigated negative declaration, was adopted by the City Council in 2022. The general plan amendment and rezone can tear off that initial study as long as we make findings that the project is consistent. It's consistent with the general plan and zoning. With the rezone and general plan amendment, that will happen. And there was no additional significant impacts that were not examined. Staff believes those findings can be made. There was a public hearing held at the Planning Commission. We did public hearing notice, and not only for that meeting and for this meeting. At the Planning Commission meeting, no comments were submitted by the public. The application was referred to city departments and trustee agencies, which no one identified any concerns for its development. The Planning Commission meeting on October 8, 2024, conducted the public hearing. There was only one question that was regarding the applicant's fair share costs for the traffic signal. Staff replied that costs are based on a fair share percentage that will be applicable to this project. On a vote of 4-0, the Planning Commission recommended approval. Recommended the City Council approve the general plan amendment and rezone as requested by the applicant. Tonight, staff is asking the council to adopt the resolution approving the general plan amendment 2023-01 and amend the general plan land use designation of the city of Livingston from public facility to highway commercial to accommodate phase 2 of the Moonglow development located on the south side of Campbell Boulevard, east of Hammond Avenue. 2, introduce and waive the first reading of the ordinance. We don't know the number yet, amending the official zoning map of the city of Livingston, designating the subject site from public, quasi-public, public facility to highway service commercial. Technically, there was identified as one parcel under the assessor's parcel number, but that was amended, and so now we have 2 new parcels, so that's been reconfirmed, so I just want to capture both for the record. That concludes my staff recommendation, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Miguel. Council, are there any questions at this time?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Let's anybody wants to go first. Just a couple of questions for you, Miguel. One is, it's probably a better question for the applicant, but I'll run it through you first. If approved, what is the expected timeline for these phases, especially phase 1, to actually go into construction and apply for permits? What is the timeline? Do you know? Have any idea? I know this is regarding rezoning. I understand that, but I'm asking for another reason here. So, what is the project timeline?
My best answer is the applicant has submitted building permits for all development on site, for the truck stop, for the convenience store and quick service restaurant, for the canopy for the gas station. In addition, he submitted building permit applications for the quick service restaurants on phase 2. It's going to come down to when they get to move the storm drain basin, relocate that, fill that in, and move it to the south side when that can proceed. So when can they proceed? I would say this year. When they can complete it, the applicant is here, they can probably respond to that.
Yeah, and then also, this project, along with others, calls for signalization. And again, I know it's all kind of related on Campbell and Hammett, correct?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
It also kicks in, might be a better question for the engineer, but it also kicks in the signalization traffic lights there, correct?
Yes, I'll ask the city engineer, they can come up and speak to the timing of the construction of the intersection there.
Because I'm just trying to put everything together for council that if I remember this correctly, this should put in a traffic light and go ahead, Mario.
Thank you. Yeah, that's that's actually a separate project, but you are correct. There will be a traffic signal at that intersection, and it will be actually synchronized with the one at Walnut. So those two will end up being synchronized. It is a city project, but it goes along with these development projects.
It does go along, coincide with it, correct? Or
say again?
It coincides with the project, correct? Or am I mistaken?
Time-wise?
Yeah.
Schedule-wise? Not necessarily. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it came in at the same time.
Not necessarily, yeah.
Okay.
This one will likely go first, the Moonglow one. And it was designed based on the configuration of what that intersection will look like when the signal goes on, so when it's installed.
Okay. And then another one is and I think Jose was there, the city manager. When we originally started about it, I was saying that is the worst area to put in that storm drain basin. One of the most highly valued property is being used for water. This is it's more valuable as a development other one, you know. So okay, that's pretty much what I have, and I kind of have to get a timeline on when they would actually go to construction. Yeah, I know they got to move the storm drain basin. That's probably going to take them a while, but is the applicant spokesperson for the applicant here, Goldie? What do you think the timeline would be for them to?
Phase one, we already paid the building fees and just waiting for you guys to give me a better will-serve letter. So once Noe Martinez gives me a grading permit, I can pay that in the morning, pull my permits, I can start next month, hopefully, on phase one. That will include leveling the whole first, the storm basin and so forth. That's on phase one. Phase two is just buildings going on.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that's it. So I've been ready to do construction since last August. I don't want to get started, you know. So it's up to you guys.
I understand.
Quickly as possible.
Yeah, I understand, Goldie. So what do you think, and I know things change, and you think by end of the year or early next year, or where you would
actually talking about the
actually,
storm basin, phase
where you
two?
would actually occupy and go into operation, where you would actually call for water?
Oh, which, are you talking about phase one or phase two?
Phase one. That's
Phase
your
one
first.
is phase one, hopefully we can start next month if everything goes accordingly, you know, if you guys issue the permits.
Yeah.
And then phase two likely maybe in September, I'm thinking.
So how long would phase one take to complete?
Phase one is a very large project, so that my projection to finish the whole thing is summertime next year.
Next year, okay.
Yeah, so
That's what I was.
I got to widen your roads and a lot of stuff going into this.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Goldie.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions? So, thank you guys for the report. At this time, I will go out for public comment. Is there anyone on the phone? So at this time, at 8:17, I will open the public hearing. Is there any citizen comments? Anyone on the phone? Bringing it back to the chamber. Any citizen comments in the chamber? Closing the citizen comments at 8:17, bringing it back to the dais. Closing the public hearing at 8:17. All right, council, anything else?
I'd like to motion to approve.
I will second it.
So we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Paul, second by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopple,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semmer,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Let's get to work. All right. Thank you. Well, and thank you for all the communication and, you know, all the questions that you had, and good luck. Thanks. Next, we have item number 12, consideration of a resolution to approve 16-month extension for conditional use permit number 2019-03 and site plan and design review application 2019-04. The villages are the main residential apartment community on property generally located on the east side of Main Street, south of Peach Avenue, APN number 047-280-020 and 047-280-029. Staff recommendation, approved resolution. Staff, I don't know who's, Miguel? Miguel. All right, go ahead.
Thank you once again, Miguel Galvez. This project, let me just give you a little bit of background. This project was approved previously. The project consists of construction of a 480-unit residential apartment complex located on the east side of Main Street, Licking Boulevard, south of Peach Street, as outlined in red above there. The property consists of two properties, 17.3 acres. There's an irrigation lateral that runs through the property. The property has remained fallow, undeveloped for the last few years. Here's some recent sites of the property. I show you the irrigation lateral because that's significant to the development of the property. The property was recently put up for sale. The property, as I mentioned, is vacant, undeveloped. The property has a general plan designation of HD, high-density residential, and is zoned as R3, high-density residential. The property is identified with the little star there. As I mentioned, the project was approved previously. A use permit and site plan design review was approved by the City Council on October 5th, 2021. Since that time, on September 25th, 2023, staff approved a 12-month time extension as evidence that the applicant has been making progress. Typically, a site plan design review has a time period of 24 months, so they need to show that they're making progress, otherwise the site plan design review expires. So a 12-month time extension was provided to October 5th, 2024. The applicant submitted a second time request to staff. They requested a 12-month time extension initially, and then they amended that request and asked for a 2-year time extension. During that time, staff asked for evidence that there was substantial action, substantial movement, that the applicant was moving forward with the project, and nothing was submitted since October 5th, 2024. And so we took this item to the Planning Commission. But here's a quick site plan of the property. Has a number of buildings, 3 stories, has some interior playground equipment. You can see that the irrigation lateral will have to be addressed, and part of that address will have to be the undergrounding of the lateral, which has been timely for the applicant. Has been a time delay for him in working with MID. Issues. The project is a welcome project for the city in the sense that it's helping the city meet its regional housing needs. 480 units is a large number. We are looking at that number to help us meet our regional housing needs allocation. So that's one of the issues that helps the city provide housing opportunities for residents, members of the community. The other issue, as I mentioned, the applicant has to show that they're taking actions to develop the property. The third issue that came up was the commitment of city water service. As you know, the city has been evaluating its water capacity, looking at both projects that are entitled, projects that are applied for, and looking at the current service. And until recently, staff has been closely evaluating that, since water usually has been a concern during the summer months. The other issue that came up was the applicant can reapply when they're ready to proceed. And so these were some of the issues that were kind of addressed with the applicant and the Planning Commission. Initially, staff recommended that the Planning Commission approve a 12-month time extension, and the main reason for that was that it helps the city meet its regional housing needs allocation, but quite simply it helps provide housing opportunities for many of its residents. In December of 2024, staff changed the recommendation due to a potential shortfall of city water service during summer months, as I mentioned. At the Planning Commission meeting, these are some of the considerations that were brought up. The applicant expressed that they were delayed by Modesto Irrigation District due to its lengthy review and approval of the improvement plans to underground the irrigation lateral. And based on that, staff initially provided a 12-month time extension through October 5th, 2024, but since that, 2023, since that time, nothing else had happened. At that same time, the applicant had yet to apply for either a building permit or a grading permit. They could have. The property was, and I believe it's still presently up for sale. This issue was, addressed with the applicant. They were looking for perhaps to partner a joint venture with someone else that can provide additional funding to the project. The project may not be up for sale any longer. We can ask the applicant. As I mentioned, the applicant did not submit any additional information documenting any further progress that had taken. There was no delays by city staff to, prohibit him from moving forward with either a grading permit or a building permit on that. The applicant was at the meeting, and they identified that they were having issues with financing as cost to, particularly, I believe, underground. The lateral went from $900,000 to $2.4 million, and they had to go through a process to select a contractor, and that was lengthy. The applicant also said that the applicant's representative was not clear on the order of moving forward with the process. The other consideration was whether or not, if the city were to deny the time extension, whether it would free up water that's dedicated to this project and can be applied to other projects. So these were some of the things that the Planning Commission considered at their meeting in December of 2024. At the end, the commission surmised that with the city trying to assess its water capacity, with the state moving forward with the ACE train station, the need for homes and apartments to meet the city's regional housing needs allocation goals, the project would benefit the Livingston community. And on a vote of 4-0, the commission recommended the city council approve a 16th-month time extension. Again, the applicant initially requested a 12-month, and they amended their request to 24 months, but the commission recommended a 16th-month time extension. At this point, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the resolution to approve a 16-month time extension for a conditional use permit application 2019-03 and site plan design review application 2019-04 for the Villages at Main Residential Apartment Community Project. That concludes my presentation. Myself and staff are available for questions.
All right. Thank you, Miguel. Council, are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor, a quick question for Miguel. Thank you for the slides, by the way. That was super comprehensive, as was the report that we received. When we're saying that the applicant could reapply when they're ready to proceed, does that mean when they're ready to break ground on the construction? Is that the time that we're referencing?
That's not my thought on that. My thought was that when they have their contractor in hand, when they have their financing, then they can come back to the Planning Commission and apply for reapply for its approval, it'll be shovel-ready, in my opinion. I mean, they can apply today if the application was denied.
Okay. And then to piggyback off of that, unless staff have any questions for Miguel, I have a question for the applicant based off of that comment. Good. For the applicant, I have a question. So at the Planning Commission meeting, by that time, it was said to us that a contractor is in place, the folks from Ceres, but financing still needed to be secured, which is why the property was listed for sale. Has there been an update on that end?
The contractor is in place, as you stated. Yeah, the I think Chatham Construction out of Ceres is engaged for the undergrounding of the canal specifically, not for the apartment buildings. The financing that we were talking about securing is for the apartment buildings, the parking, the offsite improvements. The money for the canal undergrounding, I believe, is available to the property owner at this time. I think the 2.4 million number, because I believe they have put up a deposit to the contractor, and they were looking to order the materials. I think we discussed this at the Planning Commission meeting, where there was kind of like a timeline here. They want to break ground in October, when the irrigation season ends, and MID gives us the all clear. So to do so, we would need, there's a kind of like a waiting period for this pipe, I guess, because it's some special 84-inch pipe, really big size. I guess you have to order it. There's a, I don't know what the word is, waiting period to even get your materials. So I know we were kind of just waiting to hear on this time extension before we let the contractor put the order in with the manufacturer.
Thank you.
Council, are there any other questions at this time? So I didn't attend that December 12th Planning Commission meeting, but I did watch it a couple of times because I think there were some good questions that were brought up by some of the commissioners, and then at that time you were there. And then staff, part of the comments or the concerns that you mentioned also in that presentation of December 12th was that you mentioned that a letter or the contract with, I believe the contract, you meant the contract with the company that was to underground the water canal was not properly signed and was incomplete. Can you specify what you mean by that? What was that the contract that you were referring to?
Yes. Initially, the Planning Commission had met, had a scheduled meeting for October 8th. And at that time, we had requested the applicant to provide any type of information that they can to show progress was being made. And so the applicant did two things. They submitted a letter which was unsigned, requesting the time extension, also relaying reasons for that. And they also provided a contract for services, and the contract was just for the undergrounding of the canal by the contractor, correct?
That's correct, and that was signed by the contractor and the property owner at that time.
Yeah, and so there were some things missing with that, but it sounds like it's, I haven't seen the latest.
Yeah, well, you're correct. The contract was specifically for the underground of the canal, not for the entire project.
Yeah.
At this time. So I guess I wasn't sure why it was deemed incomplete either. That was like my question too when I read the staff report.
Yeah, so at that time, the city staff had received some information, but it was not complete. Things were missing, things weren't signed.
So you already have a different contract, it's completed?
I believe the one that's in the staff report tonight is complete. It looks like it's the signed version that has both the contractors and the property owner signatures on it.
Okay.
And it describes the scope of work as the Arena Canal undergrounding. The only thing not attached is the estimate.
All right, so if that's the case, I do have a question in regards to the contract. I'm trying to go back and to see exactly on which page it is. It's actually on page 361 of the agenda, 361. And so can you look at it and make sure that this is the updated?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up on my phone.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a hard copy.
That's okay. I'll wait. I just want to double check.
Do you have a hard copy, Miguel? Yeah, this seems to be the complete version for the Arena Canal undergrounding. Yeah, the executed version.
Okay, so I'm just a little confused, or maybe we can clarify that.
Right.
So at the beginning of the contract, on the top page of 361, it says, this agreement is made this 11 November 2024 by and between Arena Canal Relocation. Is that the name of the company?
That's the name of the project. I think that's a typo maybe on the contractor's part.
So, yeah, so that's what I figured, that is the...
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
That is the name of the project, but not the name of the company, or here...
Yeah, then it has owner, but at the signature block, it has the correct owner's name, the property owner's name.
Okay.
But I can see what you mean. I didn't even notice that, to be honest.
But everything else should be right, the address, 6707 Hunter Road, Livingston, and...
That's the property owner's home address, yeah.
Okay. And so, just one of those things that I catch when I'm reading things.
Appreciate that.
So just before I move forward, is that an issue, since the contract here is not, it doesn't have the accurate name of at the beginning of the contract, just says as owner, and it refers to the name of the project as the name of the owner.
For the council's purposes, no. That doesn't have a legal effect on the decision on whether or not to grant the time extension.
Okay.
Council could ask that they resubmit a corrected version that properly identifies the owner, but it wouldn't have a legal effect on the council's action tonight.
Okay.
I think that's more of an issue on our end. I'll probably recommend the property owner to get a corrected contract now that you bring that up.
All right. So let's see, just real quick, I'm looking at my notes here. Where this was signed, or it was approved, I think if I remember correctly, October 2011, I'm sorry, 2021?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So it's been a long time.
Correct.
So
yeah.
I'm trying to kind of think back.
Yeah.
And look at the paperwork, and something that I didn't catch. I don't know if Miguel or anybody or engineering or somebody else could help me with this. Were there elevators that were included or required for this in this project?
Thank you.
Was that any part of the conditional, any of the conditions?
My understanding there's no elevators that were proposed.
No elevators were proposed, and they weren't required per the building code, I guess.
For the approval of the council at that time?
No. That's my recollection, that they weren't proposed and they weren't required, so, but the project was approved. That's my memory.
So engineering, and I don't know if, because you were not here at that time, Miguel, right?
I was not.
But do you remember if that was part of any of your engineering recommendations at that time?
Yeah, engineering does not get involved with the buildings. That's a building department question.
That is what, I'm sorry?
I say engineering does not get involved with the building, so that's a building department question.
Okay.
I was going to add, at this time, when they submit their building permit, they're going to have to comply with the latest building code requirements, which I believe is adopted a year or 2 years ago.
2022, yeah, California Building Code, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll have to comply with their current building code requirements. So if an elevator is required, it will have to be installed.
It will have to be installed?
Yeah, they'll have to build it to code, yes. If the code requires it to be installed, it will have to be installed.
What are some of the, okay, so you have to go back and look at it to see what became different requirements, and then it has to be included.
Correct.
Regardless of whether or not it was included in 2021, it was originally approved.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay. And so normally in my recollection and part of the conversations at the different planning commission meetings was that normally I remember 2021 there was a hurry to try and get it approved because the idea was to get the canal underground during the winter season when MID was not going to use it so that you guys could go in and work on it, right?
Correct. Yeah, that was our full intention, our full outlook for the project, that we really thought we were going to hit that first irrigation off season.
All right. So then that means that this 2025 we have to wait more or less around the same time when MID is not in use, is not using it, right? So which is probably October, November, December, somewhere around that time.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's kind of what spurred I think the 16th month time extension compared to the 12 that was originally mentioned at Planning Commission, because we discussed how we would kind of be waiting around until October to actually construct, and that kind of gave us an extra little bit of room to get that done.
So to my point, because initially your previous permit was going to expire in October or November, right?
October.
It was going to expire in October 2023.
Yeah,
with
okay.
the initial 12-month extension.
So that's why you were asking initially for a 12-month extension.
Correct.
But since now we are in March and we're only roughly about 7, 8 months away from the winter.
Correct.
So probably if council considers a 12-month, you should be just fine because, 12 months from now is going to be March of 2026, if that's the case. If the concern is to be able to have enough time to underground it, and council will, or we would be able to see that this time you will be able to break ground and underground this winter, and then if you don't do what you say you were going to do in 2021, then that means something's not going to happen until another year until you get a chance to underground the water canal. So what I'm thinking that in this case, 16 months is probably too long. 12 months should be enough for us to really consider and see if you're really going to be able to do something this year. If not, we can just move forward and do something else with it.
Okay. I mean, I looked to Miguel as to why it was changed to 16 months. You have a better memory than me, probably. I know the discussion was mainly between commission and you as to extending that. I didn't ask for 16 months, but...
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Planning Commission, during the meeting, the chair has suggested that we go to 16 months, and we agreed as a commission and set to 16 months. The question that I would ask is this 16 months from when this was requested, or is this 16 months from today?
It would run from the time it was approved.
So it'd be 16 months from October of 2024?
It would be
Today.
16 months from today, because
Okay.
that's when the extension is approved.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Is the property still for sale?
The property was never for sale. The property was being advertised by our real estate agent as a joint venture opportunity to investors. We were trying to just find any sort of financing we could, whether it was private or public funds, we were just exploring every avenue.
All right, thank you.
So we're just looking through my notes. Just one more question. What's the current plan I believe the plan was to phase it out in 3 different phases?
That's correct. The project will still be phased. I don't remember if it's going to be 3 or 4 phases, but I know the first phase will probably be 1 to 2 apartment buildings and the community center, the parks, and all the amenities.
So one to 2 apartment buildings, which is, I think it was, how many apartments per building?
Off the top of my head, I don't recall.
I believe there was 12 structures.
12, 480, so it's roughly 40 per building.
So we're looking at
roughly about 80, right?
Maybe 80 to 100 units we're
Yeah.
looking at in phase 1.
So if we're really looking at phase one now, could we as the city look at, because at that time, if so much water has to be allocated in 3 to 4 different phases or 4 different phases, can we consider breaking that up and really providing and work with water for phase one and then eventually come back and do phase two? I don't know, is that even possible? Is that something that the city could do? Because we don't know how long before phase 2, 3, and 4, right? And in the meantime, it could help with the availability of water in the city for and then eventually that will give us more time to get more water infrastructure. And then when you're ready for phase 2, then we can provide.
Yeah, I guess we would still have concerns with the pace at which the city could get their infrastructure upgraded. If, let's say, we were to commit and do phase 1, and let's say, the market is in a way where we're completely rented out and we're sold out, and we want to do phase 2, but the city has not put in the infrastructure in place to get us will serve letters because, let's say, another commercial project came in or another residential project came in at the same, right after our phase 1 was going. And, they took all the available capacity and we can't get a will serve for phase 2. And now we've been hindered.
Or how about for half of it? I don't know.
If I may say something here, that has actually been taken into account on the capacity table that's been available to everyone. This project, I think we did 4 phases of that. It's under assumptions, obviously, but they're phased, 1 this year, 1 the other one. And I don't know the years off the top of my head, but it's in that table.
And so that's the 80 number that you have on. I think it was 80, right?
It's you're talking about the total water. 80 is a different project. This one is 480. So they were divided in 4 phases, and the total usage for this is about 180 gallons per minute. So divide that into 4.
I'd like to ask a clarifying question. While for our planning purposes, staff have divvied this up by phase, the entire project has been entitled water, correct?
Correct.
And so, Mr. Moran, are you asking that we change the entitlement or the planning aspect of it?
Well, right now what I'm thinking is how can we help everybody out, So I'm looking at the form here. It's based on 120 units, which is phase 1, right? Based on the document that we have here, it's 45 gallons per minute.
Yeah, I have it with me if you'd like. I can take a look at it. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'll get the chart.
So it really wouldn't make any difference because it's already phased out here.
No, what I'm saying is, theoretically speaking, is what I thought you were asking is, right now the entire project is entitled water. So even though it's going to consume it in phases, the city's, in its planning purposes, has entitled it to say, we're prepared to give it to you as you phase it. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean we've approved the will serve letters for it. You know what I mean? So just because it's included as an entitlement within our planning purposes, it doesn't mean that we've actually committed to giving the water. And so what I thought you were asking is, can we explore changing our commitment by phase? If that's not what you're asking, that's okay. But that's the point that I was questioning.
But maybe that is something that you can propose or bring forward,
Well, is that a possibility? I'm not sure if that's a legal question or a staff question, but...
It wouldn't be something at tonight's meeting to be considered because right now the issue agendized is the extension, but that could be something that could be brought back to council.
And then, Mr. Santos, just given the numerous discussions we've had around water, legal and non-legal, there's a lot of rules that they've been elaborated to us, but they haven't necessarily been set at the dais. Do you have any legal recommendation based off of state code as it pertains to allocating water?
For allocation of water, since it's a housing project, it would be a priority allocation. The state has deemed, effectively, there's some variations, but affordable housing is #1 priority. Agricultural housing is another priority, and just housing in general is another priority. So those housing takes they kind of remove, the state has kind of removed the first in time, first in right components of it, but that only becomes an issue if you're faced with picking between projects on who gets the capacity allocation first. We're not at that point now. So I think at this point we're okay, but this would be considered under state law a priority project for water allocation.
And then one more, is there any other just advice or recommendation based off of state code and precedent as it relates to granting the extension, or just related to the amount of time that this could be extended?
Yeah, based on, sorry, let me get the code sections. I'll make sure we're on the same page. Not too long ago, there was a bill passed. It's by the state legislature, and specifically, it's in Government Code Section 65914.4. Based on that Government Code section, I would recommend granting the applicant's request for the time extension, because under that code, I believe that this project would fall under that code grant, and it would allocate such an extension. It does provide for a one-time extension for projects that predate January 1st, meaning the projects that were already pre-approved prior to January 1st, 2024.
And so, Mario, so is this timeline that we have on our water capacity, is that, because I see, phase one, 120 units, more or less around January 2026. Is that from the developer, or is that us?
It's just an assumption that we made, the city made, our office made, and it's very, very conservative, because I'm pretty sure by January 26, there's no water being used. So that's ultra conservative. So it shows 26 as that phase one, that's the 120 units. And then the second phase in 27, which again is very ultra conservative, same amount. And then the other two probably end up with four phases, I'm not sure. But then we lump those at the end in 2028, which again, it's not gonna happen. So,
yeah.
And those are all accounted here on this capacity table, and so, well, you've seen it before.
Yeah, and so so you're gonna have four phases, right? 120 each phase, more or less. So if everything happens as planned, this winter you are planning to underground the water canal, and then from there on start breaking ground.
Yeah, I think concurrently we'd probably apply for a grading permit for an on-site rough grade and probably underground utilities, maybe off-sites. We haven't really discussed which one we're going with first, but because we're underground the canal, it just makes sense for us to grade the site as well and just make sure we balance our dirt work accordingly.
All right, and then obviously hoping that everything goes as planned and there's financing and investors or anything else. Is there a slight chance that you guys will be able to flip this into somebody else that just come in and take over the entire project?
The desire is not for someone to take over the whole project. The property owners are, local property owners. They're community members. They don't really want to cut ties completely at this time. There is a hope that, they could still be involved in some capacity. That's why a joint venture was what was being explored as of recent. Because, it's a good feeling to get back to your local community and help them grow, when it's in your backyard, literally.
Yeah, it's just, because one of the concerns has been it's taking a long time, but I have no other questions at this time. Council, is there any other questions before I go for public comment?
I do have one. There's been a lot of concern that's expressed to me to that point that this project is never going to go through, and the applicant's going to sell the land or let somebody else come in or whatever. And so I didn't ask this at the Planning Commission meeting, but I do want to ask it tonight. Is the applicant willing to verbally put it on public record that they are committed to starting and finishing this project all the way through?
I can't speak for the applicants or the property owner, but I can say they're definitely committed to starting developments. I don't know what the market's going to bring or the future is going to bring for them personally or financially, or what it's going to bring for all of us as a community.
All right, so at 8:53, I will go out for public comment. Is there anyone on the phone in regards, any questions or comments in regards to item number 12? Bringing it back to the chamber, is there any citizen comments in regards to item number 12? Yes. Yes. Can you please state your name for the record?
Blaine Yagi, property owner in Livingston. I don't understand why we continue to give these applicants extensions. They're using up all our water capacity. We have other projects that are in line and other projects that will give us tax revenue. And we're just going to extend this. We extended it since 2021. When is it going to ever end? We're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to bury the canal for at least probably till October, because there's water in the canal already. So it's just we're just getting it. We're just extending this on, and we're creating other projects that are valuable to this community, not to get built. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other citizen comments in the chamber?
So first of all, I want to say I'm not opposed to projects like this because Livingston needs them for sure. We need more housing. However, and also I want to point out, Mr. Mayor Moran, that I will point out positive stuff that you do, but also when I need to bring up other stuff, I will as well, especially if it involves me. But I appreciate that you're asking all these questions and you're looking into all of this, because I was writing notes as I was listening, and you too, Mr. Japjit, and everyone else that has questions. But one quick question is, how many units? And I know the answer, but it's, okay, so I'll just say it's 480 units. So I think you brought up the fact is, do we have the water infrastructure to support this? And I know that you and I live probably less than a mile away from this project, and you live in a newer development. I live in an older development. However, like this weekend, my water came out red. So what are we doing about that? Like, can we fix this before we allow projects such as this? Unless these projects are coming in and helping redo the piping or whatever, because like I said, literally this weekend, this Saturday, my water came out red. And, my granddaughter got scared, said, what the heck is that? So I still want to look into that, or I want you, not me, but I want you guys to look into that, and how does that affect us right now? And if is the infrastructure there? Is that a question you guys can answer now, or?
Yeah, well, I could take all night to talk about, try to educate the public a little bit about water. So to answer your question, what we have about 2% residual of chlorine in the water. And then we have, we've done a great job here in the city in terms of replacing the majority of the old pipes. So we put C900 pipes in. But you still have a few certain areas that still need to be addressed. And so you have a lot of different minerals in the water. One of those is manganese. And so when you have the flow of oxygen, of course, inside the actual lines, and they go back and forth, and we have a major user on the other side of town. So, and then you have some certain dead ends. And so what happens is that you start to see some oxygenation that starts to happen inside the water lines. And so can we absolutely get rid of red water? that's a secondary constituent? The answer is completely no. However, the goal is, and I'm sure that staff has been working over the years to address with the fire department to try to find those spots and alleviate and discharge, that water. Continuous improvement is very important, and then you have another piece that some people don't really know, and that is what the homeowner has in their home, their piping, their systems. Some of that sometimes always plays a little bit. It's a smaller portion, but it is. But our goal here is to continue to identify funding and prioritize, especially those areas that have older pipes and then dead ends, to have a continuous feed loop. But thank you for your questions, and that's very important.
Yeah, and I remember that the fire department used to come out and flush them out every once in a while. I don't know if they still do that. The other question was, how would approving this extension affect housing that's ready to break ground now versus a year, 2 years from now? Is that going to affect housing? Because like I said, I believe that Livingston needs more housing, but maybe more smaller single family builds that are out there.
Another very good question. So there's a lot of moving parts, Mr. Valadez. So for instance, one, as I mentioned a little earlier in my staff report, we have a living, breathing document, which is the general plan, and so we take that into account, and that's actually tied with the tax sharing agreement, because without that we can't annex additional property, and so there is opportunities for infill. There's a few properties within the community, and then the property owners for those properties that are actually designated for housing, whether it be multifamily or single, would have to be interested in developing those properties and have the financing for those properties. And then the other piece to that is making sure that all of the different wells that we have, are up to par, and that we're addressing a lot of the water quality issues that we currently have. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I hope to over the coming weeks and months to be able to, wrap our head around all of those things, and with the council prioritize those areas. We talked a little bit about putting together a prioritization for water and those things. And there's some other things that we have to look at as far as the general plan, which is the actual studies that are going to be the backbone for that document, and whether it's water, sewer, streets, etc.
So so back to the main question is: do we have the water capacity to support 480 new units plus? I don't know how many are over here on B Street, plus whatever's coming. Do we have the capacity, water capacity?
Okay, so let me answer it this way. The applicants talked about actually constructing these in phases, and the engineer talked about when these possible phases will come in. It would be really great that the applicant can meet that timeline, but it gives us a window of about 3 years. But there's and it could be a little longer. However, our goal is to be able to address those issues sooner. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be, our mayor talked about, and also our council member Upal talked about looking for outside funding. Okay, so hopefully finding some earmarks funds. I know that there's some instability at the federal and also at the state level, but working together and identifying different ways to address this is what our ultimate goal is for all of us. But specifically to answer your question, we will be able to meet the capacity of these projects, and then as other projects come into play, because they're phasing it, by then we hope to have well number 17, 18A, we're looking at well 15. We're looking at other opportunities. So it's not an easy question to answer, but it is something that we cannot. We have to revisit continuously, and we talked about doing that quarterly.
May I add real quick, Mr. Valdez, to your questions? I am not aware of any large single-family housing development application that has come to the city. As of this point, staff, council, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that there's nobody currently in the application phase for that. And given that this should not affect anybody going forward. Our water issues are probably one of the things that are holding folks back. But like Mr. Ramirez mentioned, this project is phased out. And based on projections, which haven't always been met, but based on the city's current projections, we expect to have a massively increased level of water capacity from new well projects that are in the works right now by the time that this project actually demands any water from the city.
Council, so at this time, we still have, it's open for citizen comments. Any other citizen comments, please come forward.
Diego Castillo. I have a question for council. As you guys are aware of, I'm a local resident, business owner, developer, always pro-growth, and I believe housing is something we definitely need in the city. My question is, how do we make a project like the one that's being proposed tonight to continue to move forward, and at the same time be able to give the same priority to smaller, whether it be homeowners that are trying to build an ADU or a in-law quarters or smaller multifamily? Because the reason there's no single-family projects in the pipeline, myself included, every time we've asked this, there's no water, so those projects are not presented, not because they're not available, it's because we're being told you can't present them because there's no water. I'm aware of several dozen small ADU projects that have been pushed away because there's no water. So my question to you is, and again, like I said, I'm pro-growth, pro-development such as this project is, but how do we make it a win for everybody that wants to bring housing? I'll give you just some small recap from last Planning Commission. In the calendar year of 2024, we had one new housing unit built in the whole year of 2024. There was a total of 5. The other 4 were actually mobile homes that were brought back into an existing mobile home park. So technically, yes, they came back, but they were at some point they were already accounted for. So in the entire calendar year of 2024, we had one single family or one housing unit built in 2024. And again, I'm aware of several dozens multifamily and smaller multifamily projects that for the last couple of years have been saying no, we can't. You can't proceed because there's no water. Or they tell you, yeah, you can proceed, bring the project forward, but then we can't issue a canon servable letter. And as you guys are aware, every 2 years or so, the construction or the codes change. So even if you go spend the money to bring a project forward, then 2 years later, if you don't get the entitlements or the canon servable letter, then you have to start all over again. So that, in my opinion, it's not that there isn't any housing projects. I believe if there was water available, you would have, I'm certain, because I have several myself personally, and I've talked to other residents that have smaller projects, like mom and pop say, hey, I want to build a, in-law quarters or a casita for my mom or my older son or family member X, Y, and Z. I know at least a dozen have gotten turned down because there's no water. So how do we address that so that we can bring projects like the one that's in front of us tonight, and so we can continue to move forward these smaller ADU and casitas, because we've been being told that there isn't capacity for one unit, let alone, a couple hundred. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional citizen comments in the chamber at this time? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments on 906, bringing it back to the dais. Council, is there any other questions? It's personally, I think that Obviously, we have a water issue, water access. That's I think everybody knows that, and for the last couple of years, if not 3-4 years, the city of Livingston has been trying to playing catch up with water infrastructure, and thankfully there's projects on the works, but those projects, they're not like just done overnight. They take a year, 2 years, 3 years on the city side, and they're very expensive because they're on the city side. And I know that there's more than a few developers that I have spoken to, and not only from here, that are interested in Livingston, but something that they're doing in other communities as well is that when they have a big enough project that is going to require, so much water, and and this I share with others too as well, that they propose that they will build and include a water well within their project, so that they can, so for instance, if we have a new well that they're proposing to build with their project, which they're only going to require, I don't know, roughly, 200, 300, if it's a really huge project that is going to require 150 or 200 gallons per minute, and that well that they're building, whether it being small well is going to provide 400 or 600 gallons per minute, that then they can later hand over to the city, and the project is only going to use, I don't know, 150. We still have 350 or 400 gallons per minute left over. And then the city can pay for part of the project, and the project pays for their own share of it. But the problem is that when the city does it, it's just way, we just talked about prevailing wages. It's just way too expensive. So we gotta start thinking outside the box. I think we as a city, we need to start thinking. I'm not saying that this was not done before, but we got to be more proactive. Even though we're looking at the next 2 or 3 years. And what can we do to provide water for the next 2 or 3 years? But we got to think beyond that. We got to think, as a city, we need to think like, for us to have enough water for the next 5-10 years, so that we are not playing catch up again, over and over again. I do understand that, how this project, it's eventually, it is going to be phased out, and probably in 4 phases, 120 units a phase, 480 units total. And it's probably going to be, maybe 6 to 8 years for it to be built, if there's a phase that is built out every 2 years or so. Yes, I understand that we're not going to need all that water at one time, and we're going to need apparently roughly an estimated of 45 gallons per minute for every phase, for each phase. It's, being on this side of the dais, we have to make decisions and be responsible to the city and to the residents, where we don't put ourselves or we don't put the city in a position to where they become liable for something, I think we've been doing that already too much. The city has been, we've been fixing things from the past, patching things up. And honestly, and I think everybody remembers, when this project came to council in 2021, I was a council member, and I think I did not vote in favor of it. I was not in favor of it, for the many different reasons. City infrastructure I didn't think it was adequate. Fire department was not so much in support of it. I was not in support of it, and so I'm, at this point, I'm not sure where I'm at. So I'm going to rely on the rest of the council and see what else they have, what other input to provide. And because yes, I appreciate you bringing in public comments, and I wish more people would provide public comments, because I've been People have been talking to me about this and other projects, and the main thing is water. And it's a concern. You know, I think sometimes I feel safe, like the city is not going to be in trouble, and not being able to provide water, all the water that we're promising. But at the same time, I have to think about the city and not put the city in a position to where, you know, in a difficult position to where we're going to have to do as we promised. So it is not easy. It is a very difficult decision to make. So, Council.
Are you making a motion, Mr. Mayor?
I'm not making a motion right now. I'm just stating my position and what I'm thinking, because I think it's very important for people to understand what we are thinking or what I am thinking and why I ask questions. So, no, but it's not a motion. Is there any other questions, comments at this time, or motions?
I'd like to, Mr. Wallace, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that it's disapproved.
Disapprove? So I would...
to not approve?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted, because, got it.
Before any member of the council potentially seconds that, if that's okay, I'd like to add a comment. I actually voted yes for this item during the Planning Commission meeting when it was extended, and been second guessing that a lot since that meeting has taken place, after learning more about the city's water issues, talking to their developers, talking with staff, etc. Mr. Wallace, in all honesty, I share some of that sentiment. That being said, after reading this code that the city attorney just referenced, the code states very, very explicitly that these folks are eligible for an extension based off the eligibility criteria, which are two. One, if their initial permit was issued prior to and was in effect on January 1st, 2024, which it was. And two, if that permit was set to expire prior to December 31st, 2025, which it was. And given both of those criteria are met, and this is a housing development application, pursuant to this state code, these folks are entitled to an extension. I share and I understand the frustrations of other developers who've been ready to go for years now, and have not been granted the opportunity to do so because the city didn't get their act together 10 to 15 years ago. Mr. Castillo, I completely understand your comment when you ask how do we let everybody win. I think the honest answer to that, in my perspective at least at this point in time, we can't. The city screwed up over a decade ago when they should have planned for and built wells to make sure that we weren't in the hole that we are in today. But we dug ourselves into a hole, and now we're trying to dig ourselves out. And when you're in that situation, you can't win. And I know that doesn't sound pretty, but as you all know, I'm not one to sugarcoat. And I think that's the honest place that we're in. When it comes to this project, it's eating up a huge amount of our entitled water. And that's a huge concern to me, one that I wasn't aware of when I voted for it at the planning meeting, but that I am aware of now. But again, I feel like this state code kind of binds us. And while I have frustration with how much water this is taking up, it seems very clear here that these folks are entitled to an extension. The only thing I would ask of council, and Mr. Moran mentioned this earlier, is can we consider shortening that extension to 12 months? And Mr. Attorney, I'm open to your recommendation on that as well, just because that forces the applicant to underground this canal this year. And I think that's what everybody here would like to see, and that's what the entire development community would like to see.
I would say the council can revert back to the original request by the applicant, since the requested change was put forward by the Planning Commission and not the applicant. So the council is not bound by the Planning Commission's decision. It's a recommendation to the council.
In that case, I would suggest that council consider a 12-month extension, and I'm open to any other questions, comments, or motions.
So, council, there's a motion on the floor at this time, but is there any other comments before we move forward? Seeing none, so there is a motion on the floor to not approve this this recommendation. Is there a second? So I have a question for legal. If council moves forward and not approves this recommendation legally based on current code, where does the city stand?
What I would say is the city would likely face an appeal, a writ appeal of its decision. And if that writ appeal went forward, the city would likely lose if it opposed the appeal.
All right, council, any other questions? So there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Wallace. Is there a second? All right, seeing none, it dies for the lack of a second. Council, is there any other motions on the floor? Recommendations?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Councilmember Upa, would you consider a 14-month extension? Meet halfway?
14 months from today gets us into May of next year.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is they wouldn't be able to underground at that point anyway. We really only need to extend past the time that the water's off, because that gives them enough time. So if 12 months from now would get us into March, which is already enough time. It's arbitrary at that point. I feel like 12 is fine, unless the applicant feels otherwise.
You know, personally, once again, you know, because when they came to present their request for 12 months, that was back in October. So they were expecting that 12 months to go into October 2025 anyways. And even with 12 months right now, if council approves it, it's going to go beyond what they initially requested anyways. So it's, you know, all the way until March 2026. So it's really going beyond what they initially requested. So, you know, and if the project is not going to be done during this winter, it's not going to be done in March or April or May, because it's just not going to happen. So it doesn't really make sense of why having to extend the permit beyond actually even December, because we should know by December this year if it's going to happen or not. So we could even look at it and say, you know, well, it's March, then, you know, I would only consider 8 months, but, you know, or 10 months. So, because if it's not going to happen beyond December, it's not going to happen. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to correct. I know we asked for 12 months initially, and we understood that when that was counted for, and then that's why we followed up with the 24-month request with that letter. And I mean, anywhere in this 12 to 16 range, I see what you guys are saying. It makes sense to me as well. That, you know, as long as constructing the canal would meet the definition of substantive action, and, you know, our permit would stay alive, then we wouldn't have to come and ask for another extension. Can you confirm that, Miguel, just to make sure?
That's correct. They have 12 months to take out a building permit or a grading permit. That keeps the entitlement alive. So even if they were to wait to the last day and come to City Hall and take out a building permit, that extends the life of the entitlement application.
Okay, council, any other questions? Recommendations? So personally, I wouldn't recommend anything beyond 12 months at this point, but that's just me personally.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to motion to approve the extension for 12 months.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Opal. Is there a second?
I will second it.
So we have a second on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth.
Yes.
Councilmember Opal.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-1.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have, next we have discussion and potential action items. Item number 14, discussion and direction regarding the City of Livingston, 14. Discussion and direction regarding the City of Livingston City Council's options for filling the vacant elected city clerk position.
So on February 4th, 2025, at the regular meeting, Mr. Wallace was appointed as city council member. And he gave his resignation as city clerk that same day. As a result, the city clerk position became vacant. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 36512, it states that if a vacancy occurs in an elective office, the council shall, within 60 days from the commencement of the vacancy, either fill the vacancy by appointment or call a special election to fill the vacancy. Staff recommends council to discuss the vacancy of the city clerk and either directly appoint a resident to the position of city clerk, call for a special election, and adopt the attached resolution. Well, there's no resolution. Adopt and provide alternative direction. So if the council decides to have a special election, the county gave us an estimate of approximately $76,486. If the council decides on going out for applications, staff recommends opening applications March 19th through March 24th. And on April 1st, bring the item back to council.
I'll just add, Mr. Mayor, too, the appointment would be a 2-year appointment. Because you can't serve long, an appointment can't be for longer than 2 years. So basically the position would come up for election at the next, in 2026 at the next regularly scheduled election cycle. In addition, the appointment will have to be before April 25th, as that would be the expiration of the 60 days to make the appointment.
Is that before April 25th or April 4th?
It's
Because on the
60 days
from February 4th.
Oh, my apologies. I thought you said 24th.
Oh, no, February 4th.
Sorry, I miscalculated.
So it has to be done by April 1st because
Yes.
it'll be.
All right, so, I mean, I don't see much of a...
I have a question for the lawyer, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Can the appointed city treasurer also be the appointed deputy city clerk? Could those be interchanged?
Likely not. I mean, we did need to seek an opinion from the AG and likely the FPPC, because I would be concerned that there'd be incompatibility issues of those two positions because they have separate responsibilities and separate obligations to the city.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Assuming she's on board, could Ms. Cisneros be appointed to the city clerk position given she's doing that work or on her own already anyway?
Unfortunately, no. And Monica, please correct me, but I don't believe, she's not a resident of the city of Livingston.
Good try, though. To me, the choice is clear, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, I should have asked for it first.
Go ahead.
Okay, choice is clear. We're not going to spend $70,000. Let's get real, okay? So my plan is my recommendation is to go ahead and advertise it till, and then discuss it back on the April meeting. Open it up for residents to apply and then Go for it.
So, question, and I think this is more of a clarification. I know that right now we have, well, based on the recommendation is to open or to solicit applications starting March 19, tomorrow, to March 24 by 4:30 p.m. Let's say that we don't get no applications. Just to remind council that we can still appoint someone without an application. So, also, let's just hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, because if we don't open it, I don't know if anybody has come forward for anybody right now, but we can't just arbitrarily appoint somebody, So my suggestion is to do that, and everybody put it on Facebook, everybody all have it, or wherever, and say, application open, please apply if you're interested.
And then also in this report, I think there was further considerations. Also for council, let's just go with this first, and then we'll figure out the rest of it now later in regards to having other things on the ballot for next year.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So we'd have to hold a special meeting before April? Is that what I'm hearing? If we got an application to appoint somebody? Or what is our cutoff date? Please remind me.
April 5th.
April 5th?
Yeah. Well, it's a Saturday. But for the appointment, I believe our next regularly scheduled meeting
is on the 1st.
Is April 1st. Okay. That's why we do the appointment then, and it's within the 60-day time period.
Okay.
All right, so I will go out for public comment at this time. Is there any public comment on the phone in regards to this item, 929? Hearing none, bringing it back to the chamber. Any public comment in the chamber? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, Council. So you're giving only 4 days for people to apply? That would be tomorrow, which is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday? Is that enough time to put the word out?
That's all the time we have.
Julio, would you like to apply?
No.
Julio, stand up.
You could just appoint him.
Stand up. We'll appoint you right now.
Is there any?
Would the council be open to, if we don't receive any applicants during that time, that we suggest to keep it open until the last day? Because the council can appoint with conditionally. Until
I would say let it open until. That's a good point. Let it open until the last day. We can appoint conditionally.
As long as there's no issues with staff processing that, I think we're all okay with that.
We could agendize it so that it would meet the Brown Act requirements.
Okay.
And just to be clear, what we mean by conditioning, meaning that they live.
We have to verify that they're registered voters. So if we can't do it at that time, then it's just going to be conditional. So we're going to have to check. And then, hope that they're residents.
Just 1 second. I think I want to go back. I'm trying to go back real quick because I think I read something. Hopefully it's not on this report, to where there was a difference, where there was a requirement to be legal. You guys can correct me, or you guys who did this report, Monica. Was there some language in regards to requirements of, there was no requirement to live within the city limits, or was that a different report?
Per municipal code, it is required for them to be registered voters and living in the city.
I just, it's hard to remember exactly everything that I read, but I read something somewhere. Okay, but I just want to double check.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
This might be a legal question. Just to clarify off the point Ms. Cisneros just made, is that municipal code that requires them to be a resident, or is that state code?
It's the municipal code, but typically, I'd have to go back, but typically the municipal code on that issue mirrors the state code requirements.
Assuming
And
that,
likely because it's an elected position.
right. Assuming state code does not require this individual to be a resident of the city and nobody applies, is the council open to amending the municipal code to not require this person to be a resident? And if Ms. Cisneros in that situation would be okay with it, and nobody applied that is a resident to appoint her at that point?
The one thing I would just add is it would in order to make that amendment to the code, it would take longer than we would have to appoint somebody. We would have to do a first reading, a second reading, and then it's an additional 30 days after that point. So we're looking at anywhere from 60 to 90 days for it to go into effect.
All right. So, the citizen comments is still open. Is there anybody else? So if not, I will close the citizen comments on 9:33, bringing it back to the dais. Council, is there any other questions or recommendations? So, go ahead.
I'd just like to motion to open the application process up until the April 1st meeting, agendize it so that we can take applications up to that date and then bring the item back on that date to consider an appointment.
With what's the legal word? With the condition that if we leave it open until April 1st, the condition is that
Such an appointment would be conditional on verification that they meet the municipal code requirements to be appointed as the city clerk.
I'll go ahead and second that. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Uplan?
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra?
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item, number 15, discussion and direction regarding the formation of Measure L Oversight Committee and setting priorities for Measure L funding.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So there's been, well, first of all, congratulations on the measure passing here in Livingston. So there's a lot of, templates out there. One of the things that I suggested to staff was to, come up with something that is fairly simple, not as complex as some of the, other bigger cities. So, and we're open for suggestions from council, but one of the things that I was talking to staff about was, it's always great to have more, you talked about having more city participations, more city member residents engage in public service, et cetera. And so here's an opportunity where you can go with a 7 or a 9 member. I think 5 is not enough, but then if you go beyond 9, somewhere between 7 and 9, you get a good cross-section of participants in the community. Some examples could be you can have a representative that you guys can appoint from the business community and other representatives from bigger business. You can appoint, different parts of town. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for council to come up with a nice committee. Now, there's been some cities that actually have named, rather than calling it the Citizen Oversight Committee, there's some cities that have actually named it the Tax Transparency Commission. So you guys can be creative there. The number one point here is that we need to make sure that there's ample community participation from different sectors. And if you get that, I think that would be fabulous. But we're open to any input. I don't know if you wanted to share anything happy on this item. Yeah, okay.
All right, council, anything else?
Yeah, to me, I like the idea of a 7 to 9. More than 9 is way too many, and 7 is probably good. I mean, he's picking it up. Either one is good. So, and instead of calling it a Measure L committee, I would call it Public Safety Committee or something to that effect. Can do with public safety. So I'm not sure. Then we'll let the staff come with it, but I would suggest that we give general direction. I don't know what the rest of the council's feeling is on the number, but I would say, you know, either I'm okay to either one, 7 or 9. You know, and what we've done here, we've done this kind of like a stakeholders committee in the past, where, like Jose just mentioned, is where we get a buy-in from the business community. We can't forget somebody from the firefighters, volunteers, because, you know, things open up a slot for them and others. I think we should, you know, whatever you guys want, 7 or 9, I'm okay. But to bring it up, bring it back, and then open up for applicants to apply.
And then another parameter, just real quick, to make it easier too, you might want to incorporate where, you know, you get to take on nominations or appoint, you know, just something to keep it flowing in case, you know, folks who are part of this leave, that it's easy for you all to, you know, get more folks easily incorporated.
Yeah. But now, it needs to be, it can't be an ad hoc, it would have to be a standing committee, I believe. Well, thank you. Did I just hear from you?
Yeah, doesn't want to collaborate.
I was going to say it needs to be a standing committee, and also, boy, I tell you, okay, a standing committee.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
A few comments. First one,
Right in my mind, I was about to say that.
could someone please highlight the difference between a standing committee and an ad hoc? I know an ad hoc has 2 council members. What would a standing committee have?
So the general difference between a standing committee and an ad hoc committee is the ad hoc committee has a very limited purpose, a very specific purpose for a limited duration, and generally is not required to comply with the Brown Act. A standing committee is generally a committee, especially like this for a Measure L, that is going on for a significant amount of time. It would be required to be a standing committee. Because of that, in and of its nature, just the amount of time and length of time that Measure L would be in effect, you couldn't do that as an ad hoc committee. It's usually typically less than a year.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you. So I have a couple comments based off of what's been said by Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Samara. So first one is Mr. Ramirez mentioned potentially calling this a tax transparency commission. I know you mentioned potentially calling it a public safety commission. Both of those are kind of implying that the scope is broader than just Measure L funds and just the Measure L tax. And so I'm open if council wants to expand the scope of the committee to a broader tax or a broader public safety thing. We do have a traffic commission item coming up right after this. That might fall more into public safety than tax, but open to council's opinion on that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, this is also about setting priorities for Measure L funding, this direction. I know this has been discussed, but I want to make it very clear on the dais, even though the unions may not be very happy about this. Priority to me, and I'm sure for at least for some of the members of the council for this funding, is to make sure that we have a fully funded and operational fire department before anything else. So I wanted to make that clear that that's where I stand on that, and then open to hearing your guys' opinions.
Thank you. So legal and then or staff, just to piggyback on the comment in regards to setting priorities for Metro L funding, being a standing committee, those will be recommendations to the council, right?
Yes, the standing committee wouldn't have any legislative authority. It would present recommendations to the council, and then the council would either adopt those recommendations or modify them.
And then also, when there's a standing committee, what is the leadway that attending council members can partake in those meetings, or can? And I think, I mean, I already know the answer, but I think it's important for clarification. Our council or currently elected council members, are they, obviously they can attend, if I'm not wrong, they can attend, but can they participate? Can they voice their opinion, or they should be just sitting on the background, silently listening, just taking notes and wait until things come to council?
Sitting council members could sit on the committee. The issue we always run into is can't be more than 2 council members, because that would be a majority of the council, and you effectively have a meeting of the city council once you have the majority of the council there. And the action items, or the priorities, the recommendations would then be going to council for consideration. So if council members were going to be a part of this particular committee, I would not recommend it be more than two council members, preferably 1, but no more than 2.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would strongly discourage council members from participating. The idea is this committee will be also looking at the measure of funds. You don't want public to lose confidence, say there's a political input. You want it to be separate, that when it comes to council, it'll be open, but prior to that, let them do their job. That way, there is no influence from any elected official.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment to that point?
Yes.
I think that's a fair point. Do we want to consider having a council member be a liaison the way we are to Planning Commission and potentially Parks and Recs meetings to that committee, so that we make sure at least one of us is there? The rest of us could attend if we wanted to as well, but then we also don't get in the way. Are we open to that?
Also, is there anything else at this time? Go ahead, Mr. Roth.
No, I think that's a great idea, Councilmember Rupel. I mean, we do it for all the, like, recreation planning. So, I mean, that is fair to do for this one, but no participation from the council members. I think, even on the head.
And, you know, I just wanted it to have clarification, because in the past I seen that not being the case, where council members or sitting elected officials are attending meetings or were attending meetings and voicing their opinion before it would come to council, which was very inappropriate. But thank you for the clarification. So I do agree that I think it would be a good idea to have 7 members and 2 alternates, because, you know, this is going to be an ongoing committee for a long time. I think, you know, it's always good to make sure that you know, there are alternates in case, you know, quorum for 7 will be 4, and we've seen how that can affect sometimes some of the other commissions, but, you know, and then we lose one, and then we always try to bring somebody else on board. So instead of having 9, then you gotta, you know, have 2 alternates, and then, because out of 9, then you gotta have 5 minimum for a quorum, and it just makes it more difficult. So if you had, if you consider 7 and then two alternates, and, you know, I think that would be helpful. And I think that's it for my comments at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
To the point on a number, I'm open to the 7 to 9 range. Can we direct staff to consider all relevant stakeholders that you feel are important to bring to the table? And then once we have everybody down, then consider how much or how many of each of these stakeholders we want, And then the one recommendation that I've had, open to us to the council's opinion on this, I feel like members of the community, how many ever there are, even if it ends up being just 2, based on how many other stakeholders there are, be the largest block of, and so like let's just say there's 5 stakeholders. One of them is members of the community. I ask that no matter how many stakeholders there are, that members of the community are the largest block. Even if that means we can only get 2 members of the community on the committee, and there's 1 representative of each other stakeholder that we identify.
So I guess what you're saying and recommending is that on that application that there was a specific question where they can make reference to, are they applying based on business sector of the community? Are they college students? Are they in education? Are they, just household folks? I think, just to make sure that we have all of that, and then maybe we can provide a list of categories just to kind of help out to figure out which category they want to, or they see themselves in. And so does that mean that this application has to come back to the council for review, or how can we make sure that, right? So staff will...
Yeah, staff will come up, based on the conversation this evening, we'll come up with some type of template that will, bring back to council so that the council can look at it one more time. And I really appreciate Councilmember Paul bringing up, making sure that the biggest block of the community, or the biggest block representing the community, because otherwise the public perception will say, well, it's all staff or and elected official influence. And so, the utility stakeholder model has worked very, very, very well for this community. So something similar, but we'll bring back a template and some information for you.
And just for clarification for the council, our municipal code does have guidelines for the creation and appointment of committee members. So if council looks at code section or chapter, it's Title II, Boards and Commissions. It'd be Chapter 1 of Title II. It provides the general rules, appointment of committee members, meetings, and things of that nature.
All right. Did I go out for public comment yet? No, not yet? No. So I will go out for public. Yes? Okay, so I will go out for public comment at this time. Is there anyone on the phone? 950. Hearing none, bringing it back to the chamber. Is there any public comment in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the public comment at 950. Council, anything else? Well, this is just discussion and direction. There's no motions needed. Is there anything else that you guys want to add at this time? Staff, do we have enough? Okay. All right. So we're good, right? Okay. Next item, item number 16, discussion and direction regarding the formation of a City of Livingston Traffic Commission.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is an actual committee that we actually established about 8 months or so before I left. And of course, this is a document that there's been several projects that actually have used this committee. But again, it's a living document, and so there's always room for continuous improvement. I know that there's been some additions and some edits, and the standing members that were part of this, at least the feedback that I've received, actually highlights, it incorporates the community. It gives the opportunity for the chief, the public works director, and the engineer and other staff members to listen thoroughly and precisely on what the issues are out there. And it has an actual petition element for the members of that section of the community that have an issue, which actually gets them to get involved, to not just complain about the issue, and then it talks about several calming measures, traffic calming measures. And the other piece that I like about it is that, you know, sometimes they ask for something and then several months later they're like, we really don't want that. And so this provides a living document and it allows the community to interact with staff to really focus on all the different issues. So I didn't know if Councilmember Roth, if you wanted to share anything.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So I brought this to the agenda just because of the recent months of what's happened with our traffic on some of our streets. Tragedies that have happened to our community members, family members. So I think it's important that we actually focus on this and get it going. I know years ago when I started watching meetings and attending meetings and things like that, traffic was a big concern back then. Even when I was on planning, it was a concern. So I think this is something that we should head into right away and get this ball rolling. Thank you.
So, Chief, we'll catch up on this. I don't know if you're familiar with this document, but we'll look at it, we'll talk about it, we'll get it restarted, and thank you for bringing it up.
Council, anything else before I go for public comment? So is there any public comment on the phone in regards to this item, 953? Hearing none, is there any public comment in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the public comment at 954. So, Council, anything else on that item?
I just asked staff, Mr. Ramirez, is there any direction that you feel is necessary from us, like additional at this point, or?
Of course, this is like I mentioned before, it's a living document, so we're always open for, comments. So far, I'll certainly be touching base with staff, and I actually put that document together. So when I met with some of the staff members, they've actually incorporated some edits and made things a little bit better. So for now, I think we're good, but always open for comments.
Thank you. And Mr. Roth, thanks for bringing this up. A lot of people have been asking for this.
Probably only one thing, if I can make a recommendation, if possible. I know that in the past, throughout the years, there has been members in the community that have participated in different traffic committees. Maybe we can, if staff can reach out to them and see if they're interested of coming back and, and volunteering their time. And I think that will be helpful. And then again, bringing it back and see how we can integrate members in the community as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I make one suggestion?
Yes, go ahead.
In light of the municipal code, if the city is reestablishing the traffic commission or committee, then it would probably be a good time to bring those appointments back to the council, given the length of time between the last time it was active and now, so that those individuals can be reappointed by the council and kind of imbibe them with that authority that the ordinance grants to committee members.
All right, with believing nothing else on that item. Next, we have council direction on future agenda items. Anyone? If not, just email us or email someone and move. All right, meeting adjourned at 9:56.